After a political career that's been spanning over almost 5 long decades, Pranab Mukherjee has today embarked on a new journey as he's sworn in as the 13th President of India. What does this mean for you, me, and maybe the economy at large? Let's find out in this show by Anil Padmanabhan. Anil, thanks a lot for joining on this show. So finally, the much anticipated debate around who's going to be the President of India is resolved. We know that Pranab Mukherjee is today sworn as the 13th President. Now, given the fact that Pranab Mukherjee has had a career in politics for so very long, you think it's going to make an impact on the presidency of this country?
I think what you're trying to ask me is that now that we have a politician in Rashtrapati Bhavan, will the president's role be different? Firstly, I don't think this is the first time a politician is in Rashtrapati Bhavan. Secondly, the constitution is being very carefully crafted on the kind of role or the potential mischief that a lot of people are fearing he might engage in, which is unfair because he's just taken a charge today. But it's a fair expectation, but I think misplaced, primarily because the constitution will not permit it. There's limited room for him to maneuver and play politics from there. And if he does, it would be a cardinal mistake on his part, because unlikely, given his long record in public office and his stature and backdrop, I think these fears are unfounded. So you have a new president and we should look forward to his tenure.
Okay. Now, there has been a lot of talk around the 2014 Lok Sabha elections and how he would play quite a huge role. In fact, in his own, speech, he mentioned that while I am just a constituent head, the role of a president is into play when politics is, unsettled. So, do you think it's actually going to make that big an impact in the 2014 Lok Sabha elections?
No, there is correct. You see, in a coalition era, which is what India is in, I don't think we are going into a single party era for a long time to come. So in that context, about who is given the first crack at forming the government, the president's role becomes critical. But having said that, it's not arbitrary. The President of India cannot decide randomly. It has to be based on a particular science and a particular number formation that comes. But what often happens is there's an ambiguity in a coalition formation. Like say if you took the NDA and UPA for example. Now their constituents keep varying. So at that point of time, post-election results, there might be some swaps here and there, which makes that arithmetic a little tricky. There the president's call becomes very critical. So that is what everyone is referring to, that he'll become an important player in deciding who will form the next government. But that is in a situation where it is a very tight race. Now, we don't know as of now. So if it is a clear win, like say in the last election where the Congress ended up with 209 seats of their own and the coalition, there was no issue, there is no debate. So they get the first choice. So if assume the NDA was in the reverse position, there's nothing the president can do to reverse. It would be almost impossible for a president of India to reverse such an electoral verdict. But yes, in a tight situation, his call becomes critical.
Now, it was projected by the UP as some sort of a watershed moment. Do you think now that you've achieved and reached that moment is really going to change things? Is really that moment?
Great point, because there has been a lot of build-up, both from within government and out of government, particularly analysts and Wall Street and Singapore. Everybody's been expecting that this is the benchmark moment, because the politics was arranged to ensure the Congress candidate gets elected. And going forward, they will have a new chapter, a new policy thrust that could be put out by the government. But I don't think so. I think the circumstances have not transformed so radically. And worse, they have lost a pretty big anchor in Pranab Mukherjee becoming the president. So now, firstly, who will fill that vacuum? Secondly, how do I rejig the cabinet and then manage a new consensus, a new anchor around which consensus can be created to push policy response? And the kind of policy response required are not simple decisions. They are very, very tough decisions. So yes, there is a change, but what it brings forth, whether it's going to bring forth a flood of policy response, I have my doubts.
And looking at it more from a macroeconomic lens, any political function or decision always has economic ramifications. What sort of economic imperative do you see through this?
See, the point is the macroeconomic context today is very bad. You have 10% plus in retail inflation. Your monsoons are a near failure because it's inevitable that in a few weeks the government would declare drought in parts of India, not across India. And the overall external environment is worsening. So every which way you look, the macroeconomic environment is adverse. And the interest rates are high, so investments are rolling back at this point. So the context is very bad, the macroeconomic context for radical policy decisions. So it is not exactly the perfect combination either politically or in macroeconomic terms to expect serious policy change.
Okay, so on that grim note, thanks a lot Anil for being on this show. Let's hope Pranab Mukherjee is able to have a fulfilling presidency and is also able to live up to our expectations. Thanks a lot for being on this show. Keep watching.